Welcome back to Acadiana's Morning News and Wingin' It Wednesday. Our panelists, Carol Ross and Warren Caudle, joining us. Hello. Happy to have you guys back in the room.
Well, it's nice and happy to be here.
Good. Okay. Hey,
Warren in a mellow mood today.
I was about to say, the violent knocking that he did on our window whenever we wouldn't let him in the door says otherwise. Maybe he's calmed down after that cup of coffee. So let's start with Kathy Griffin, this comedian who, really did something stupid, and I think enough people got to her, including Chelsea Clinton, who has come out today and said it's ridiculous, or I guess late last night, it's ridiculous. You can't do that. The president, whatever.
It's disgusting.
So let's just play this real quick, Bernie.
All right,
This is what was posted just because we had someone call in the last hour, kind of questioning whether or not she was kind of serious, which I'm looking at.
There were two apologies.
Yes, there was the initial one that said, I'm a comedian.
Right.
This is what I do. This is the one, obviously, that people are talking about today. Get with it. Come on.
Is it the circle of death?
It's the circle.
Man. All right.
Oh, no, not really. Okay, anyway.
All right.
Just turn it down. I'll let you know when it goes.
Yeah, and then we can be like, okay, now we'll play. That thing's possessed.
It just doesn't make any sense. Okay, this is, despite how you feel about the president or what, he's still a person. So This is the apology.
I sincerely apologize. I'm just now seeing the reaction of these images. I'm a comic. I crossed the line. I moved the line. Then I crossed it. I went way too far. The image is too disturbing. I understand how it offends people. It wasn't funny. I get it. I've made a lot of mistakes in my career. I will continue. I ask your forgiveness. Taking down the image. I'm going to ask the photographer to take down the image. And I beg for your forgiveness. I went too far. I made a mistake, and I was wrong.
I'm sorry. That sounds sincere to me.
So, Carol,
I don't know.
Sorry, guys. Is the I'm a comedian,
you get started first.
Defense, is that a good place to start? I mean, how do you feel about this?
Well, the image was actually texted to me yesterday during the show, during the Ross Report. And I looked at it, and I really couldn't process it. I couldn't believe that anybody could be that tasteless.
Yeah.
I mean, so I didn't say anything about it because I was trying to figure out what the heck was that.
What do you say about it?
Kathy Griffin, another formerly funny comedian who has now gone down the drain. I mean, really, if you're that desperate to get attention, and you put yourself up there like one of the most hated groups in the world, which is ISIS, and hold up a severed head of the president. What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
And then they have her on video discussing it with the photographer. Oh yeah, and they're looking at the angles, and is that
that's
good?
What surprised me the most. It probably you too. It was like a professional, great looking picture. It wasn't me taking a picture of you with my iPhone.
No, this was professionally done, and they were looking at it afterwards and sizing it up and trying to figure out if it was the right, the way did it look right? Was it, Oh man, I'm telling you. Kathy, what happened to you all the way from Jesus, Mary, and Joseph with her mother to this? I mean, she used to be funny. I've always enjoyed her. I mean, I know she goes too far. I know that. But isn't that the job of a comedian? But this is beyond the pale. I mean, this offends all people are offended by this. It's not just
even the Clintons, apparently. I think the Clintons were offended.
I would imagine it takes a lot to offend Chelsea after all she's been through with her parents. But I mean, for her to come out and be offended by this also. It's just what has happened to a real sense of humor in this country. What has happened to really funny things from personal experiences and all. Now they're so eaten up with the political scene.
Lock the door.
Okay.
Lock it.
Oh, Moons.
Oh my gosh. Warren is so obsessed with that darn door.
He is obsessed.
Oh, Moon made it in. I'm sorry, Warren.
But anyway, I did see the apology last night. And it seemed sincere enough to me. But, I mean, in a country where people are getting offended because Pitbull put his face over the Stars and Stripes while thanking the veterans for their service, and people went cuckoo over that. I mean, and then you compare it to this thing. I mean, people get a sense of proportion of what's really upsetting people.
Yeah.
This was horrible. Horrible.
I think the big story is that somebody like that, how in the world could they ever even begin to think that was going to be funny or it was going to be approved by anyone? I mean, the woman has to be absolutely insane. But I think that just goes to show you just what extent that the outrage is with this mainstream media and the leftists who want to take over this country, that they will go to any extent. And I think in one sense of the word, it's probably a good thing that she did that, because it just turned around and it just solidified the outrage of real America. Mm-hmm. You know, that what they, you know, if they think they can sit there and do that to us, you know, to me, that is, it's beyond the pale. I mean, what would have happened if somebody had got out there and strung up an effigy of an African American in a tree and stood there laughing and had the professional people on it?
It wouldn't even have to have had an Obama face on it.
That is correct, you know? And, I mean, even if they had done that with somebody like Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, the right would have still been outraged over it and said that, you know, that is just, that goes too damn far. And if you don't know that by the time that you're in a place where this woman was in society, then yeah, I've got nothing else to say.
You know, I did think it was interesting, kind of, you know, to what Carol said, where she didn't really know what to make of it, and so she didn't mention anything, you know, about it on the show yesterday. I think you see that a lot. You don't see the, you know, the Hannitys or even the Rush Limbaughs or the Ben Fergusons. You don't see any of them who their counterparts on the left would come out screaming if anything ever happened like that. You didn't even see much of it from that. It was the real people who were like, you know, give me a break. Come on.
I mean,
it's just tasteless and disgusting.
Have we because of this political derangement over Trump? Have we lost all sense of proportion? Mm-hmm. And that's the question.
No, we've lost all sense of kofifi. Did y'all see that last night?
That's the Russian word for kerfuffle.
Okay, kerfuffle. Okay, sounds like it. 7:26. Let's take a quick break right now. We're back with Wingin' It Wednesday, brought to you by Service Cadillac. Stay with us. 7:29. Welcome back to Acadiana's Morning News and Wingin' It Wednesday with Carol Ross and Warren Caudle. You know, so much to fit in. You know, there's just so much to fit in. We try to boil it down to 4 topics. The ones we obviously get the most calls on and you know,
comments and different things,
etc. So Michael Flynn, the ousted NSA director, is cooperating now. We hear, and now Jared Kushner seems to be the focus of the Trump-Russia investigation. Sources say he's been told to lay low for now, but the question remains. From the Harris Faulkner on Fox News, who brought it all to fruition on Sunday by saying, wait a second, if there was collusion with Russia, then why would Kushner be setting up a secret channel? Can't you only have one or the other? Warren, your thoughts on this whole mess?
First of all, I don't think it's a mess. And secondly...
Okay, well...
And secondly...
I'll go home.
And secondly, I listened to none other than Alan Dershowitz, who is an extreme foremost constitutional attorney, and he teaches at Harvard Law School. And he also said one time that Senator Ted Cruz was the most brilliant law student he ever had. And then he backed off and said one of the most. But he said the other day, he said, listen, first of all, he said there is no crime here. He said they meet with people all the time. He said that's what you're supposed to do. He said when a new incoming administration is coming in, they need to have a game plan on what they're going to do. He said there is no crime to meet with them. And he said the only crime it would have been, and he went on and spelled it out, kind of like if they'd have gone in there and did a, you know, basically he said if they'd have done what Hillary did, a quid pro quo. I'm going to give you the uranium. If you'll donate $500,000, give my husband $500,000.
Way to work that in. Way to work that in, Warren.
And I don't think he went quite that far, but he kind of beat around the bush. He didn't say exactly that, but that's what he was saying. And that's what everybody has said, you know. What is the crime? And there is no crime. And then secondly, about setting up the private channels, it's done all the time. It's done all the time. And it's even done between friends. And that, you know, I mean, this is just one more level of the insanity that we have gotten to, where it is an all-out assault. It's guerrilla warfare against not just Donald Trump. It's guerrilla warfare against the Constitution of the United States and against this government. And that the National Socialists are bound and determined to bring it down. And the National Socialists, I'm going to say it one more time, they had an acronym in the 1930s in Germany. It was Nazi. And every time every time that those people who believe in totalitarian government, who believe that government has all the answers, that government should have total control, is what they get to in the end. And that is why I am so vehemently opposed to each and every one of them. And that is their aim, that is their goal, and all these people say, oh, well, no, it's a different kind of socialism. Bull. It's the same thing. You give them a little power and they want more. You give them more power and they want absolute power. And once they get absolute power, then what's their next step? Then they start exterminating their opposition. It's always happened. It's never failed.
You know, you talk about, kind of the mess in Washington, and that's how it's happened. Maybe mess is the wrong word. Sorry, Warren. What's going on in Washington? Are the lawmakers partly to blame for all this, Carol? I mean, on both sides, everything I've ever heard from people who've worked there, from covering Congress, I've spent several days covering Congress, different points of time, it all seems like one giant party there. We're led to believe it's very different, very by the aisle. There were sometimes, I know, reporters who have to remind themselves, wait a second, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican officially? Because it's all the same. It's a big cesspool.
Well, what else is there to say?
No, there. I'm back now. Warren dismissed me, but I'm back now.
Totalitarian, I don't know about that. What I know is there is a deep state. There are bureaucrats in there. Trump has not cleaned house because it's really difficult to clean house that quickly. He needs more time. Will he be able to do it? I don't know. They're so entrenched, and they are protected. They are protected by the legislative body, but these are bureaucrats. I've gotten story after story about those in mid-level positions in the EPA, in the education department, one department after the other, that are actually sabotaging every way they can the Trump agenda. They are so fundamentally opposed. The entire insider, and that's Republicans and Democrats, the insider culture in Washington, D.C., is so entrenched that when Donald Trump got elected, I really believe it sent them into a fugue, what psychiatrists would call a fugue state. They really cannot handle what happened. The conventional wisdom was so deeply entrenched that he would never get elected, that what we're seeing now is the aftermath of that shock that they have not been able to overcome. Now the resistance is very deep and very dug in. It's really amazing to watch. The man is having trouble every which way he turns. He is not the second coming of Lucifer. He has a different world view than those insiders in Washington. He has been used to dealing in the private sector where things make sense in the real world. It either works or it doesn't. It makes sense or it doesn't.
Makes money or doesn't make money.
It makes money or it doesn't.
Yep.
These are very simple principles that he has probably lived by all of his life. And now he's in Washington, D.C., where absolutely nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I don't understand why people can't just go in and do the job you've been hired to do and keep your politics out of it, because I think it's just our world today and the country we live in. Well, people are so selfish.
Yeah, well,
they
Bernie,
don't care.
It's two things. Their worldview
they want to benefit.
Well,
they want to benefit.
They want to benefit personally, but beyond that, they have this deeply entrenched worldview. And Donald Trump's policies don't fit in. For instance, look at his tax proposal. The Democrats and everybody up there are screaming, it's going to hurt people, It's the one thing that's really going to help people. It's the one thing that devolves power out of the hands of government and puts it back into the hands of the people and remembers who is funding all of this, the taxpayer. But they can't deal with that. All they can see is all of those different agencies of government that may lose, a few $1 million here and there, and they just can't believe it. They can't conscience it.
Warren?
Yeah, one of the main things about talking about Washington, D.C. as opposed to the rest of the world, you are talking about two different worlds. The rules that apply to the rest of us do not apply to them. I saw a thing the other day that said that not only are members of Congress, but their staff are not covered by insider trading laws. Whoa!
Wow, I didn't know that.
Whoa!
Well, at one time, the Supreme Court wasn't covered by minority protection laws, hiring women and minorities.
Yeah, and what they're saying is that now you have 7 of the top 10 highest income counties in the United States border Washington, D.C.
That's right.
You know, which used to, it was nowhere near that.
And and what was the recent story that came out? All the illegals who voted in Virginia.
Yeah.
No wonder Terry McAuliffe didn't want that voter ID law.
Well, while we're on this topic, the next thing that I had, but it really fits in with what we're talking about, is Cuba. Another one of those issues that was kind of an Obama-era legacy, the loosening of rules with Cuba and trade. It stood to benefit our state pretty bigly, I guess we'll say, with the delegation going down there. What do you think it means for the future of that, Carol?
Well, I think he'll roll back some and leave others. And if it makes sense on trade, for instance, I think he'll leave that. What I think he's looking at is the unilateral concessions that Obama did. Gave them everything, we got nothing, including the cop killer Assata Shakur, who should have been extradited years ago. Can't remember Joanne somebody. Can't remember. It'll come back to me. But anyway, now she's Assata Shakur. And they never even asked for her to be extradited. Obama did not. Probably because he approved of what she did. Anyway, this would bar American companies from making deals with the Cuban military, which, did you know that their state-run tourism industry is run by the Cuban military? Hello. Wow. So there you go. So who's going to get all the millions of dollars that are going to go in there? Well, first of all, there have been millions of dollars being transferred into Cuba over the years from family members sending back to people who live in their family members who live in Cuba. So there's been that's been really, once the Soviets pulled out, then Venezuela went to the dogs and couldn't support them anymore. And so then it was the transfer of American dollars that propped up their economy. So they're going to be, I think Trump is going to do some things. I don't think he'll hurt the trade area. I really don't. I think that's
still kind of happen that way.
Well, I mean, if he sees that we can get a benefit from it, I hope that's what happens. Yeah. We finally start looking at it from our point of view rather than the other countries' point of view. It'd be nice to have a president that operated on behalf of the United States.
I'm all in favor of opening relations and all with Cuba, and that I think that anytime you want to bring down communism, socialism, you introduce capitalism, and not crony capitalism, what we see in Washington, D.C. and Wall Street. But that
all over the country, Warren. Hey.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You see it here too.
That anytime we're trading with each other, I think it bodes well for everyone. However, when you look at it, there is a lot of money at stake in the anti-Cuban community. And you go down to Miami and those places, the last thing they want is to be friends with Cuba, because they get money, they recruit for money and all of that to fight Cuba, to be in support of sanctions and whatever. I was in Puerto Rico a few years ago and said something about that, we should normalize relations with Cuba, and the people just went ballistic. Oh, no, never. I said, why? They said, You do that, you open up Cuba, Puerto Rico cease to exist.
Carol, wrap this one up for us.
Well, just really quick, all those folks who are enamored with making that trip to Cuba or whatever, think about the military. It's a state-run tourism industry. Every dollar you put in there goes right to the dictatorship that still jails librarians, teachers, etc. Don't kid yourself. This is still a dictatorship.
It is a very different place. Wingin' Wednesday brought to you every week by Service Cadillac, one of the largest Cadillac inventories in the state and by far the largest in our area. Every color, every trim, get exactly what you want at Service Cadillac. So many deals going on over there. 1212 Ambassador Caffrey. Relax and experience the difference at Service Cadillac. You can shop online now at CadillacAtService.com. We're back after this.
All right, a couple of traffic crashes. Johnston at E. Broussard Road. That's Johnston Street at E. Broussard Road. Also have a report of a traffic crash on West Pont de Mouton at Birdsong. That's West Pont de Mouton at Birdsong. And apparently the southbound lanes of University between Johnston Street and Pinhook. Ooh. The southbound lanes of University between Johnston Street and Pinhook.
Don't say it.
Are closed temporarily so that city crews can conduct tree removal.
You mean you have to do that at 8 o'clock in the morning on a workday?
Oh, wait a minute. They were doing it on Sunday, too.
Well, Sunday makes a little bit more sense.
Sunday makes a little more sense than 7:42 on a Wednesday morning while people are trying to go to work.
Schools are out, though. No problem. There'll be no
it's all right. And did those people with their hover cars or
just as long as they're not interfering with the bike lanes, we're okay.
Yeah, there you go. Then they're in trouble.
I don't know. I have a timeline on it. I don't know if it's 20 minutes, half an hour. I got this at 7:30.
So find yourself an alternate route if you can.
Yeah, and I asked if both lanes are closed southbound or if it's just one lane.
It's utility work, right?
No, they're removing. The city crews are conducting tree removal. That's
trees?
All it says.
They're removing trees? Oh, there you go. They're blocking the bike lanes and removing trees. This is not sustainable.
Whoa. We need a special counsel.
Y'all are crazy.
Man, we got some rocket scientists, huh? Working in that department over there. Is that public works?
No, they're outside contractors, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure they're contracted by public works.
Don't
right?
they have to send a memo and say this is when we're doing the work?
Well, when are they going to do it? I mean, Sunday. They did it Sunday.
We're getting about as much done as the city council meeting.
Gee, I don't know. 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Round.
We're fun.
This is the Acadiana's morning.
We're around about.
Wingin' Wednesday is back after this.
Oh yeah.
Street said, hey.
Makes the other one sound.
That is a promo.
Mall Street said.
I ain't heard nothing yet.
But look, Mall Street said.
That was my story.
In the Independent.
Looking at it, you wear your pearls and drive your Escalade, and you can't handle the basement. That was in the Independent.
How about those of us who keep our pearls in a locked box at the bank and drive our crappy ass Hyundai, who don't want to kill a bicyclist on the side of the road? Who, by the way, since all that was started, I've seen one.
I've seen two, and they were going the wrong
way. They don't even know their own rules.
What's even worse than that is out there where I live, they get all these damn bikers come out there, and they be like 20 or 30 out in the water.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They're crossing the center lane. They're riding over there, and my neighbor says, every time my son of bitches do that.
Welcome back to Wingin' It Wednesday. Rob Kirkpatrick, Bernadette Lee, joined by Warren Caudle and Carol Ross. An interesting story in the Wall Street Journal yesterday where the headline was, finally, the Trump-Russia thing makes a little bit of sense.
Uh-huh.
We good?
You're good.
I'm hearing a lot of echo.
Yeah,
I know. It happens when we have that many going.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You can hear me. I'm so loud. I'm being picked up on all the other mics.
Feedback.
Okay, I'll talk a little bit lower. I'll get a little James Lipton on you.
Hello.
If you were a tree, which one would you be? Anyway, so this story in the Wall Street Journal basically says, finally, the Trump-Russia thing makes a little bit of sense. And the whole first paragraph.
That's Bubba Watson's line. If you were a twee, what kind of twee would you be?
Anyway.
Back to reality. Sorry, Rob.
I gotta take the headphones off. Sorry I'm sure you're having a terrible audio experience in your car, or at your office, wherever you're listening.
Okay.
But
I think I made it a little bit better.
Okay, let's just go with it.
All right.
Anyway.
Anywho.
Wall Street Journal, very interesting take on the whole Kushner thing, and it kind of turns the focus back on the FBI for falling for things that, are they even really real?
That stupid dossier.
Yeah.
Richard Steele, that dossier and Comey and the FBI really fell for the whole thing. And of course then the rest of a lot of the Trump people were inexperienced.
Yeah.
And, they just the Russians are masters at this kind of stuff. I mean, they plant fake stories everywhere. They bug everything they can. You can't, and hopefully, the one takeaway from the story was, hopefully Trump realizes that Putin is not his friend.
Yeah, hope so. Warren said several months ago, and it rings every time I read something about an intelligence report. One day, Warren floored me. I almost fell out of my chair, and you said something about, don't trust anyone who works for an intelligence agency. They're trained to lie. Why would you believe anything they said?
Exactly
They're trained to lie. This whole thing is still a mess. I'm not going to call it a mess.
All right.
You know what? I'm going to strike it from the vocabulary because I'm remembering
earlier. It is a mess, but it's a lot of other
Warren
things,
says,
too.
I wouldn't call it a mess, Rob. Go ahead and go on home. I got this. Put it on autopilot. I got it. What do you make of the whole thing?
I don't really know what to make of it, except I will say this. And you're talking about the Russians being masters of doing these kind of things, and so are we.
So we have
entire groups, I won't say agencies, basically, that do nothing but create fake news and such stuff as that, and delve into other countries'
Business,
and we stick our nose in there, and and they do the same thing. I remember they used to. I think they were the first one that came out. I forgot what they called it now, but it wasn't fake news, but it was things that
disinformation.
Disinformation. The Soviet Union had a whole little group, and they would put out disinformation and all, and we would do the same thing. And one of the things I'm going to say is, in my days as an embassy Marine, one of the things we used to do, we would check for clandestine listening devices. Just visual checks. And if we found one, what we were told to do is, for God's sakes, don't say a word. Into it. Don't say,
leave it
"Oh,
there.
I got you."
Yeah, leave it there.
And
that would totally be me.
And of course, one of the things they would do if they found those things is they would turn around and leave them where they were, and they would just put out false information. And it was sort of a game, so to speak. But for the people to take this thing about Trump and Putin and Trump and Putin. Look, I got more respect for Vladimir Putin than I do for Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and John McCain and Lindsey Graham, and I could just keep naming because at least I think that
he's honest about his agenda.
He's honest about his agenda,
a slug.
and
he doesn't parade himself like somebody holier than thou.
That's right, and that. Anyway, at least Russia is moving towards a market. They're not moving towards. They are now a market economy. They have a little bit of graft and corruption, but like we do in Wall Street and in Washington. But still, that.
Oh, I think there's more than a little bit of graft and corruption there. I mean, when they award those franchises to the oligarchs, and if the oligarchs don't play ball, like Khodorkovsky and all those other guys, but we don't throw them in jail. Not all the time.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Not all the time. But
no, we kill them.
No.
Well,
listen, the problem with all of this is everybody knows that the embassies in foreign countries are all bugged. They're all bugged. Every country, and we bug theirs. And so and that's what made Hillary Clinton such a mess. Because she leaked like a sieve, and nobody ever said anything about her. I mean, they left laptops all over the place, cell phones all over the place.
They lost a laptop.
Yeah, right.
That was absolutely loaded
with classified information,
with top secret stuff and beyond top secret
stuff. But you haven't heard the media bloviate about that, have you?
No.
I want to touch on one more topic. We have about 3 minutes left for this hour. The monuments debate. Okay, so life appears to be going on in New Orleans without the monuments, but some other cities, Baltimore being one of them, said they're going to look at taking their own monuments down. Yesterday, conservative radio host Mark Davis tweeted, "Just a heads up, if you have a monument of anyone who ever owned slaves, trust me, someone wants to come after them."
How about half the elementary schools in the country? They'll have to be renamed.
Yeah,
how about half the streets in the country, including here in Lafayette, they'll have to be renamed? How about, you name one public building after another that's going to have to be renamed. Let's just scrub every bit of our history. Let's forget who we are and what we've come through and how far we've come. And let's not use any of this as a teachable moment, because God forbid the kids should get the real history of what happened in this country. Let's keep that clean. We don't want them to know who they are, where they came from, or why it's important that we do these things now, why it's important that we understand our history and that we fight it and that we feel that we've made some progress in this country. We're not perfect, absolutely not. But to erase history, half of the universities, Yale, he was a slave trader.
Are we going to outlaw the singing of the hymn Amazing Grace? Because it was written by a captain of a slave ship who found Christ and became a Christian, and then he wrote that song. So that's 2 strikes against him. He was a captain of a slave ship, and now he is a Christian. So the mainstream media and the people in this country who are opposed to everything good, they say, well, they're probably going to be coming out with that next. You can't sing that.
And Warren, aren't you so happy? The monuments are down, and now New Orleans is perfect. They don't have any crime. They have great business development. They're not a drag on the rest of the state. They're just wonderful. The monuments are down. Sing hallelujah.
I heard somebody say the other day that what they need to do in Lee Circle is they need to put up a new sculpture there. And I'll use the term they use. They said they need to start off with a whore with a needle in her arm.
Oh my God!
And they need to have her pimp standing behind her with a handful of cash. With a handful of cash while he's in his New Orleans police uniform.
I'm slapping him, by the way. This is terrible.
Then they need to have a sculpture of a drunk in the gutter. And so if that's let's get with real New Orleans.
Warren, I want you to reach for the stars, okay? But you will not land among the New Orleans City Council. I'm afraid you need to go ahead and count. You need to go ahead and count.
No, he needs to be punished. He needs to be punished for that.
I'm like Huey Long. Send me back in the corner. At least I'll be back here talking to myself and talking to somebody that got good sense.
All right, then. Wingin' a Wednesday brought to you by Service Cadillac every single Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Stay with us. The show marches on after this.
Oh, my gosh, Warren.